He thought he was winning by marrying a millionaire, but he ended up losing in the end. Prepare yourself for an emotional story full of twists and turns. In the next few minutes, you will discover the journey of David, a man who thought he had hit the jackpot by marrying a wealthy woman. What he didn't know was that this decision would change his life in ways he could never have imagined. David was an ambitious young man from Manchester, always looking for ways to improve his financial situation. He worked as a real estate agent, but the ups and downs of the profession left him constantly worried about the future. One day, at a city gala event, he met Elizabeth, a millionaire heiress from one of the most influential families in the United Kingdom. Elizabeth was everything David had ever dreamed of: beautiful, elegant, and, most importantly, the owner of an incalculable fortune. Initially, he approached her with some hesitation, but quickly realized that Elizabeth seemed interested in his company. They began going out together, frequenting expensive restaurants and exclusive events. For David, it seemed like a fairy tale. He never imagined that a woman like Elizabeth could be interested in him. His intentions began to shape around a promising future beside her, envisioning the luxurious life he could have. David's friends warned him to be cautious, but he was determined to follow his heart and his ambition. Over time, Elizabeth started sharing more about her personal life and the challenges of being an heiress. David listened attentively, but always with an eye on the opportunity to consolidate his position beside her. He imagined how he could use his skills as an agent to help manage Elizabeth's family's properties, thus earning her trust and respect. After a few months of dating, Elizabeth invited David on a romantic trip to France. During this trip, he decided to propose to her. He meticulously prepared everything, from choosing the ring to the proposal location, which would be at a luxurious castle in the countryside. When he got down on one knee and proposed, Elizabeth accepted with tears of joy. The wedding was a grand event, worthy of British high society. Celebrities, politicians, and businessmen attended, while David felt on top of the world. He had achieved his goal and now belonged to one of the richest families in England. Everything seemed perfect, and he couldn't wait to start this new life of wealth and prestige. The first few months of marriage were a dream come true. David and Elizabeth traveled the world, staying in five-star hotels and attending the most exclusive events. David was dazzled by the luxurious lifestyle that was now part of his daily routine. He felt he had finally found his place in the world. However, small signs began to appear. Elizabeth, who had always been affectionate and caring, started to show a more controlling and demanding side. She wanted David to follow her instructions to the letter, from the way he dressed to the people he associated with. Initially, David ignored these signs, thinking they were just natural adjustments in a new marriage. As time passed, Elizabeth's demands became more frequent and severe. She monitored David's every move, from his social interactions to his daily activities. David began to feel that he was living in a gilded cage, where every action was watched and judged. The initial happiness began to give way to a feeling of oppression. One day, during a charity event, David was approached by an old friend of Elizabeth who hinted that he should be more careful. Intrigued and worried, David began to investigate Elizabeth's past and discovered that she had had problematic relationships before, always ending in mysterious circumstances. This was the first indication that something was really wrong. The discussions between David and Elizabeth became more frequent and intense. Elizabeth revealed a manipulative side, threatening David in subtle and sometimes explicit ways. He realized that he was losing his autonomy and that the wealth he so desired was costing him his freedom and peace of mind. But he still didn't know how deep Elizabeth's web of manipulation ran. Desperate to regain some control over his life, David began to plan ways to distance himself from Elizabeth without causing a scandal. He considered various alternatives, from seeking an annulment of the marriage to fleeing and starting a new life in another country. However, Elizabeth always seemed one step ahead, knowing his plans before he could even put them into action. After the wedding, David began to notice the constant presence of Elizabeth's family lawyer, John, who seemed to have more control over the finances than Elizabeth let on. John was always present, attending family meetings and making important decisions. Elizabeth often traveled for business, leaving David alone in the mansion. During these absences, he started exploring the house and found documents that raised suspicions about the source of Elizabeth's wealth. One day, entering Elizabeth's private office, David found a partially open safe containing confidential documents. In one of his searches, David found letters and emails suggesting that Elizabeth had been involved in illegal activities to increase her fortune. This included financial fraud and market manipulation. The letters were from a former business partner warning about the legal consequences of her actions. He also discovered that Elizabeth's former husbands had mysteriously disappeared and that she had connections with figures in the criminal underworld. David found old photos and newspaper clippings reporting the mysterious disappearances, all indirectly linked to Elizabeth. Determined to escape, David began to meticulously plan his escape. He tried to transfer part of the money from their joint account, but found that Elizabeth had blocked all his attempts. Every financial move was immediately detected and prevented. Elizabeth, noticing David's movements, intensified the surveillance, hiring private security to follow his every step. David began to notice unknown cars following him and realized his phone was tapped. One night, David managed to record a conversation between Elizabeth and John, discussing their plans to keep David under control and how he was just a pawn in their schemes. He hid a recorder in the office and captured the detailed confession. With this recording, David confronted Elizabeth, hoping she would release him to avoid a scandal. However, Elizabeth laughed and revealed that she had already provided a plan to discredit David and keep him imprisoned under false accusations. She showed forged documents incriminating David in various frauds. Desperate, David fled that same night, going straight to the police with the recording. However, upon arrival, he found that Elizabeth had already reported a theft of her property, incriminating him. The police, influenced by Elizabeth's power and connections, didn't listen to his claims. David was arrested but managed to send the recording to a journalist friend, who began investigating and exposing Elizabeth's criminal activities. Driven by justice, the journalist started a clandestine investigation to gather more evidence. The journalist gathered enough evidence to reopen the cases of the disappeared former husbands and the financial frauds. Elizabeth was arrested, but not before trying one last trick to escape. She tried to bribe authorities and even planned a getaway, but was betrayed by her own allies. David was released, but was deeply scarred by the traumatic experience. He decided to use his story to warn others about the dangers of greed and manipulation. He wrote a book revealing all the details of his hellish marriage and Elizabeth's schemes. Starting anew, David wrote a book about his experiences, which became a bestseller. He used the profits to help other victims of fraud and manipulation, creating a support foundation. His foundation offered legal and psychological support to people who had gone through similar situations. David found peace and purpose, turning his nightmare into a mission to protect and educate others about the risks he faced. He began giving lectures and appearing on TV shows, sharing his story and helping prevent others from falling into the same traps. Years passed, and David rebuilt his life away from the spotlight and the wealth he once desired. He moved to a small village in Scotland, where no one knew his past. There, he found peace and a new perspective on what really mattered in life. Away from manipulations and appearances, he began to value simple things and genuine relationships. David dedicated himself to helping the local community, working on social projects and offering support to people in need. He became an example of resilience and overcoming, turning his pain into strength to do good. His life story, though marked by a dark phase, became a source of inspiration for many. He never looked for information about Elizabeth again. To him, the past was buried, and he was focused on building a better future. David understood that true wealth was not in money or status, but in human connections and inner peace. He started living a simple but purposeful and meaningful life. David's story is a lesson about the importance of recognizing and valuing what really matters. His painful journey taught him to be more cautious about people's intentions and not to let greed cloud his judgment. He learned to listen to his heart and follow a path of authenticity and integrity. For those watching the video, David's story offers valuable insights. It reminds us to be vigilant in our relationships and always seek the truth behind appearances. It also inspires us to seek true happiness in things money cannot buy: love, friendship, and inner peace. Have you ever experienced something similar? Have you ever felt deceived by someone you trusted? Share your story in the comments, and let's learn and grow together from these experiences. If you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications so you don't miss any of our inspiring stories. Suggest themes for our upcoming videos and tell us what valuable lessons you learned from David's story. Together, we can create a supportive and inspiring community where everyone can learn and grow from each other's experiences. Thank you for watching until the end. Your presence and engagement are very important to us. Follow us for more inspiring content and exciting stories. Remember, true wealth lies in the things money can't buy. See you next time.